Welcome back to the second episode of the Long Ball podcast. Joined by a special guest host today. Yes, Mets Talk with Hayden, who's usually here doing the Sunday Night Baseball comment series and this podcast with your guy, Blake Newsom, is currently on the way back to college, moving back into Stetson. So he's having a busy weekend, but he should be back here in the near future. But joining me today is one of my special friends, huge baseball fanatic. He knows a lot of football too. High school and baseball phenomenon here in the state of Texas. How you doing, RJ?
Good. How about you?
Good. I'm glad that we were able to find some room and have you be able to come on the show today. Want to talk some baseball?
Yes, sir. Let's get to it.
So, of course, last week, Hayden and I were here August 6th. We recapped the trade deadline and a lot of the current standings as of that point in time. That's kind of similar to what we'll do today, but something that Hayden and I liked last broadcast to help, I think, the bias come out as being that Hayden's a big Mets fan. I'm a Braves fan. RJ today is a big Rangers fan. Our special guest once again. And let me fix our sides for Mitch here. I'm back on the Braves logo side. So there we go. I didn't think that was the layout, but how you doing, Mitch? Thanks for coming in. This is RJ, who I was telling you about. All right, so a thing that Hayden and I did to start last episode's podcast is we gave about 5 or 6 minutes to just kind of talk about our teams, see what's going on with them, get them out of the way, get the bias aside, and let just our thoughts flow. So I'm going to let RJ start off it's August 13th, 2022. Let's give a little recap of what's going on with your Texas Rangers right now, man. I know you were just at the game last week. I know that you guys are having a better season than most of them the last couple of years. You've had some big signings this offseason. How you guys doing as of right now?
Not good. I'll say that. Like a couple months ago, the Mariners were behind us. We were in second place in the AL West, and I was thinking, maybe we go make a big trade at the deadline, and get to 500 for once, or get above 500 for once. And we just didn't do that. We didn't really make any trades at the deadline. And since the deadline, it's just been downhill. I mean, we haven't really. We're 3-7 in our last 10 games right now. I mean, that's pretty much how our season's been. We've just been very meh. We just haven't been that good. Haven't been consistent. Very streaky team. Very young team, though. So I am looking forward to the coming years for sure.
Who's as you just noted, you guys are debatably one of the best farm systems in baseball. You guys were even in the Juan Soto trade talks because you have the farm capabilities to go get him. Of course, he ended up going to San Diego. We'll talk more about the Padres in a little bit, of course, for other reasons. Tell me right now who's been, the biggest shiners this year. Of course, I know you love the returns you got in the Gallo trade. Let's focus on them for a minute, of course.
So the guys who got in the Gallo trade, let's start with Josh Smith. I mean, he got called up in, I would say, probably June. He was okay. For his first 11 games, he got on every game. He set like a tied a Rangers record with Ian Kinsler. And since then, he's been hitting about 230. Nothing crazy. He has good defense. He plays very good defense. He's fast. But obviously, like the hitting, come up. He's more of a base hit guy. Doesn't hit a lot of home runs. His first major league home run, his only major league home run, was inside the park. So, not a big power guy, but he still fits in. Especially as a third base platoon with Charlie Culberson, your guy.
Oh yeah, a lot of us, and I know a lot of Dodgers fans also love Charlie Culberson for the days in both the Braves and Dodger blue. Of course, he's been a key piece for you guys last couple of years as a utility. Plays a lot of different positions, and he's getting up there in age. He's probably 34, 35 as of right now.
Yeah,
but,
I believe he's 32.
So a solid major league ball player, that's for sure. I mean, another point that I want to mention, because you weren't on the show last week, MLB Draft, which I know was about a month ago, you guys went out and took Kumar Rocker. Of course, Hayden's Mets had him last year. Failed his physical. Things went on. He went to Indy ball, balled out. You guys ended up taking him. Debatably the most pro-ready prospect in the draft. He's already pitching at Double-A with his college teammate at Vanderbilt, Jack Leiter. How excited are you for the future with them? Because your pitching's up there.
That 1-2 punch is going to be good, especially because of our pitching right now. I mean, if you think about our rotation, you can only think of one name, and that's Martin Perez. I mean, not a lot of people can name Rangers pitchers. Because they're just not good. They don't stick out. Only way they stick out is for their high ERAs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with Kumar Rocker and Leiter having the Vanderbilt experience, not only like one of the best baseball colleges in the nation, but they're like chemistry together. It's nice to have them on the same team right now. Maybe they'll work at a AAA later this season, maybe early next season, and get called up in June or July next year. Hopefully, we're competitive at that time for like a wild card spot or something. And I'm very excited about those two, though. Lots to look forward to.
So I guess to wrap it up here, Do you think that the Rangers will bring back guys like Martin Perez this offseason, being that he's on the last year of his contract? And could you see a possible reunion with Joey Gallo? And that would be a complete fleece of a trade
Yeah.
if you guys were able to pull that off.
I mean, I could see us getting Gallo, but I could also see us, passing on him. Obviously, his low batting average is an issue, but um, I do see us re-signing Perez. I mean, there's no like he wants to be in Texas. He takes pay cuts to come play here. He likes the atmosphere, and everybody loves Martin Perez. Like, how can you hate that guy, especially if you're a Rangers fan? So yeah, I would like to see us resign him. I do see us resigning him, but I do not. I do not see us getting Gallo. As much as I'd like it, I don't think we'll go get him.
And as of right now, how many wins do you guys think you'll end up with? I know preseason, you and I talked in spring training. You wanted about a 500 ball club. You guys are going through a rough patch in the dog days right now. Some of those trade acquisitions that you shipped away are now starting to show dividends. Where do you guys think you finish up record wise?
65 to 68 wins. I'd like us to hit that 70 win marker, but I mean, realistically, I think about 65.
Well, I feel like that's a good little spot for you guys to be in. I mean, how many wins did you guys end up having last year?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was probably in the 60s. Not sure.
Okay, so at least there's improvement. Of course, you guys did get two big stars in the offseason, picked up a couple other guys like Cole Calhoun, John Gray, but of course, two guys aren't going to turn a whole franchise around, but a core will. And you guys are building one down in Arlington, Dallas area. The Rangers are coming, folks. They've been gone for a couple years. They're looking to win that World Series. They're yet to do so. They've been there many times in the past, and I believe that it'll happen probably within the next decade or so if things go right. I guess we'll switch over now and do my little bit of ranting and updating on the Braves before we get around the rest of the major leagues. First of all, thank you guys all for coming out, showing some support to us this Saturday evening. If you guys are also watching on the replay on any of our platforms, whether it be Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, we appreciate it, and we thank you guys for the support. So, as I said, as of August 13th, 2022, the Braves are playing in a doubleheader today. That's kind of why we're filming in this weird hour. So RJ gets to watch the Rangers game later, and I don't miss any of the action between the Marlins and Braves doubleheader. Last Saturday, Hayden and I were sitting in between a Braves and Mets doubleheader, and that was a huge series for both sides. Of course, the Braves, the defending world champions, four winners in a row of the National League East, and the Mets have been on the National League horse the whole year. They have been in the lead, I believe, since mid-April for the rest of the year. The Braves were once at one point 10 and a half games back. They worked it to a half a game, but such a bad series in Queens led them to drop 4 of 5, and suddenly that league was back up to 6.5. It's been shortened back to 5.5 as of right now, with the Braves and Mets yet to play again tonight. So it could be at a 6.5 or a 4.5 game mark. These teams do still play 7 more times on in Atlanta. 4 games actually Monday through Thursday this next week, and the second to last series in the year. Which, if it stays pretty close, I feel like that could end up having a uh, huge impact on playoff implications. I mean, let's be honest. The Braves and the Mets are both going to be in the playoffs. Two teams with top 5 records in the league right now. The Mets currently with a 5.5 game lead on us, but head to head, they have been very dominant against the Braves this year, something that the Mets have not been able to do the last 5 or 6 years against this Atlanta ball club. This year alone, I believe they are something like 8-4 against the Braves this year, 7-4 against the Braves this year, and that's going to get it done. Especially when that team has finally gotten healthy, it's going to be hard to catch them. This team is not going to be one of the Mets teams of the past that drops 8 of 9 in the month of September and has a bunch of slumps against teams that are worse than them. Because frankly, they're not built to do that. And Buck Showalter and Steve Cohen have built a very scary ball club over in Queens. I mean, heck, they've passed the Yankees for the best record in baseball, which not a lot of people suspected a couple of months ago. They expected two really good teams. They didn't expect the Mets to be the better team, and here they are in mid-August, 5.5 games above the Atlanta Braves, and the best record in the major leagues. So I got to tip my cap to him. RJ knows how much I actually don't like that franchise. I despise the Mets as a Braves fan, but bias aside here, they have built something in Queens, and it's very scary for the Braves to look back on. I think the thing that I most appreciated about the Braves this week is after losing 4 or 5 in Queens, we come back and we've won 4 in a row since then. The Braves have come out, took a 2 game sweep in Fenway Park, and have taken the first 2 games in a 4 game series in Miami. And hopefully they continue that trend because the Mets are coming right back to town this weekend. And if you do bad in that series, well, you got to toughen it back up because you got the Astros in a World Series rematch at the end of the week, followed by the Cardinals and a couple other playoff contending teams throughout the month of August before the month of September gets underway. So this is a put up or show up time. month for the Braves. And so far, they haven't really shown either or. It's kind of been fight or flight for a week of each. And I hope things get going sooner than later. They finally brought back Kirby Yates. He made his debut with the Braves last couple nights ago when we were doing the Royals White Sox game here on Hardcore Sports Network. And Vaughn Grisham, the Atlanta Braves #2 prospect, was called up because of the Orlando Arcia hamstring injury, also with Ozzy Albies also out at the time. They had to make an amend and call up the young guy who has been great so far. Him and Michael Harris have been all over the base pass in their couple games together. They played in Double A together. Neither of these guys played a single game at Triple A, and it just shows that talent will rise to the crop at the top in the major leagues, and that's what we've seen so far. So yeah, that's the Atlanta Braves. They're 68-46, winners of 4 in a row, but still 5.5 games back of the National League East, leading New York Mets, and currently 4 games up on the Philadelphia Phillies. RJ, where do you want to start? Want to talk some American League ball or National League?
We can talk about the Padres. That's
Well, before we get to the Padres, let's actually just go ahead and recap the rest of the National League if you're okay with that.
that's cool.
So, of course, I kind of already mentioned on the National League East here. Of course, the Mets having a 73-40 record as of right now, being 5.5 above the Braves. The Phillies, who have had a great month of August, also a great month of June, to put them right back where they are. Rob Thompson has really turned that team around, and they're still without Bryce Harper. This team has a top 6-7 record in the major leagues right now, and their best player is still yet to be back from injury. He's been missing since late May. You got the Marlins at 50-63, kind of where we expected them to be at this time of year. One of the better Marlins teams they've had in a while, but no offense, and they sold some people off at the deadline. So that's kind of where you're going to sit in the division with the Mets, the Braves, and the Phillies all in there with you. Washington at the bottom. National League Central will definitely hit on later today, being that the Cubs and Reds played in the Field of Dreams game. I definitely want to talk about that in a little bit. I know RJ and I had a good chance to catch a lot of that game. You got the Cardinals and the Brewers have had a flip-flop battle all of the summer months, and right now the Cardinals are on top by a game and a half with the 62-50 record. Of course, the Brewers at 60-51. I believe the teams are like 6-6 against each other this year, maybe 7-7, something along those lines. It's been back and forth. It's been a lot of fun seeing those teams play, and I believe that division race is going to come down all the way to the end. Of course, Cubs, Pirates, and Reds all bundled up towards the bottom. How you doing, Panther Sports? Good to hear from you from Japan. Thanks for tuning in. Of course, on the National League West side, you got the Dodgers, who are winners of 11 in a row. A team that was not looking very Dodger-like early months in the summer has gotten healthy and gotten hot at the right time, and they're right back to where you think they'd be the best record in baseball, and it shows. 241 run differential in their direction. That's something a lot of offenses can't accomplish. You got the Padres 16 games back at 64-51. A great Padres team. They were on their heel there for a while, for months, and the Dodgers caught fire. The Padres hit a mini slump at the wrong time, and suddenly a 1-game advantage is now 16 for the Dodgers. You got the Giants still hanging around. We saw them at this point last week. They are 55-57, even though the record predictors say they should be 58-54 at the time. And you got the Rockies and Diamondbacks down at the bottom of the division, separated by a game and a half. So, now that the National League is out of the way, we had some big breaking news yesterday. Fernando Tatis Jr., the star shortstop who was supposed to be back within about a week and a half, who was yet to make his season debut, will not be making it for the San Diego Padres because yesterday afternoon, Jeff Passan tweeted a bomb to the world that says he has a 80-game PED suspension, which is a complete blow, I think, to the Padres fans and a big blow at their title chance. They shipped away their top shortstop prospect in the Juan Soto trade. They're looking to kill two birds with a stone, getting him back at the deadline type of move. And it just hasn't worked out that way. Of course, now he's going to miss 40-plus games again going into the 2022 season. Not going to be able to participate in spring training or minor league ball, so that 40-game suspension is up going into next season. So this is a huge blow for the Padres, someone who has been one of the greatest stars in baseball, one of the youngest talents to ever do it. And now we're maybe seeing why he made it look so easy. RJ, I know that you had a medical condition the other day, which made you have to go take a similar product to what Fernando had to for his ringworm, which is why he got a positive test for PED. So do you mind explaining what the product is, and then, of course, giving your deep dive on what this means for Fernando and the Padres?
Yeah, so obviously what I took was not 25 plus milligrams.
Yeah.
I took 4 milligrams of something to help with an inflammation, but it wasn't as strong, and I don't think it was exactly what he took, but it was a steroid. And I mean, I just set a picture up like as a joke. But if you're the Padres right now, especially if you're a fan, especially thinking like, we got Soto, we got Bell,
They
we're
got rid
looking
of Hosmer
great.
too.
Yeah, got rid of Hosmer, but
Snell's coming back.
Snell, all their pitching is coming back. Darvish is starting to get hot, having some great starts here recently. They're looking like a good playoff team. And if you're a Padres fan, you're like, okay, we're getting Tatis back next week. We're gonna make a push, with the Dodgers and try and make this closer than 16 games.
Then they got
And
swept.
you see Tatis gets an 80-game suspension, which doesn't kill him for this year, but next year he's out 42 games. He
It
can't
does
play
kill
spring
him for this
training.
year. It kills him this year and
Yeah, that's what I
probably
said.
half of next year.
Yeah, 42 games next year. The rest of this season, he can't even do spring training. So like when he comes back, we don't even know if he's going to be the same kind of hitter. We don't know if he's going to be good anymore. So it's crazy because this is a career-ending kind of thing. If he comes back and he's horrible, then I'm not saying that it's going to happen or anything, but that's a possibility.
I mean, I think it's just so crazy to think how quickly a story can turn. This guy was beloved by all of Major League Baseball just as soon as, a week ago. Just as recently as a week ago, he was thought of as one of the best young stars. And I mean, you can't find a lot of people that hate that man. Not only has he been a great provider for the San Diego Padres, him and, of course, Manny Machado's $300 million deal was really what put them back on the map. He's also been a great guy in the community. I think he spends a lot of time working with his parents, who his dad was, of course, a major league ball player, and they're big farmers, and they are very big family people, a very good personality. So he was very easy to be drawn to, especially for a lot of people who were tired of seeing the Dodgers win all the time. Seeing somebody that could compete with those guys, or so we thought. And then this happens. I mean, I know RJ and I were kind of younger when the Robinson Cano and the Ryan Braun suspensions happened about a decade ago, but this seems very similar to that. Where they were having a great 4 or 5 year stretch. Fernando's not even at that point yet, where he's only played one full major league season with injuries in the COVID year. Here we are sitting, a couple years after he makes his debut, seeing an 80-game suspension. I mean, this is just a blow. As you said, you don't know if he's going to come back and be the same player. If he does, I mean, there's always going to be that reputation of what happened. I do think the most interesting thing is he decided to just decline his appeal and take it with a grain of salt, looking for that maturity aspect. But RJ, I don't know if you saw this. The Padres GM and Mike Clevenger both kind of threw some shade at him, saying that they
Right.
need him to realize that it's not always about him. You saw Manny Machado with the blowout with it last year. What does this mean for the Padres? Because they've already given him his money, and clearly he's shown he's a great player. We haven't seen what he is without the steroids, if it really affected his play or not. Because as of now, we say he took it with ringworm, but it seems like a great cover up. What do you think this means for the Padres, though, with his maturity?
If the Padres, like the inside, like the organization's thinking that he's not mature and he's just thinking about himself here, that's gonna wear off onto other people, and then other people in the clubhouse are gonna start thinking that about him as well, and that's gonna cause conflict. So at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose because like he's not there, and there's gonna be conflict when he gets back because people don't think he's mature. People think he's selfish. People think that he's just doing whatever to make him better and not the team.
And I think it's just unfortunate, because as I've mentioned a couple times, everybody seemed to flock to this guy over the last couple years. I know there's a couple fan bases out there that don't really like him, and there's always the certain fanboys that makes you sick of a certain player no matter what the sport is. But this dude was good for baseball.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate to see what happens. I hope for the good in his heart that he's telling the truth, that he took something to help with his skin condition. Because of course, if you don't mind sharing, you're taking the same supplement for what condition?
My right hand is just like inflammation. It could be an allergic reaction. Like we don't really know what it is, but it's just I guess it's an allergic reaction. It's all like swollen and yeah, it's bad. It's my throwing hand. So
And someone did say that this was the first PED test. I mean, he's taken them throughout the year, throughout his rehab in the minor league games, and he didn't fail a single one until now. So it really makes you ponder if it was something to deal with his ringworm
right.
infection that he had going on. But I mean, you can always look at it and say this dude was making baseball look really easy as a 22, 23-year-old the last couple of years. And that makes you wonder if there was something going on behind the scenes, because people thought about that with Stanton for a long time, and over the last couple of years, we started to realize that he is more human than we thought with the injuries and the strikeouts. But I don't know. I really hope that he comes back and is a very similar player, and that the story comes out to show that it was in fact for the ringworm, because I think a lot of us like that guy, and this is a rough time for the Padres, and really a blow for a team that was looking to throttle the Dodgers or at least get into the playoffs, which it looks like as of right now, they should be still sitting pretty comfortable in the wild card. I'll actually pull up the exact standings right now in the National League. You got the Padres are currently occupying the last wildcard spot. The Braves, the first spot, 4.5 up on anybody else. The Phillies being the second place spot, only a mere half game above San Diego, with Milwaukee 2 out and the Giants 7 out, and that's pretty much everybody that's still in play for the wild card as of right now. But yeah, I kind of want to stick in the National League West if you want to, RJ, and we'll talk about a division rivalry years because, as we just noted earlier, the best record in baseball has been turned over from the New York Yankees. It's now belonging to the Houston Astros, the reigning AL champions. They have a record of 73 and 41, and the Dodgers with the best record in all of baseball. So I take back what I said with a 78 and 33 record. So of course, moving up the coast from San Diego. RJ, is this the year that the Dodgers or Astros finally win a real ring? Of course, the Dodgers noted as a Mickey Mouse ring, quote unquote, from having the COVID year, 60-game season, albeit, and the the Astros with the 2017 sign stealing scandal, which came at the hand of the Dodgers that season.
It sure looks like it. I mean, the Dodgers just looking like 1 through 9, they're hitting. Everybody's hitting. I mean, even Bellinger, and he hasn't been good the past couple years.
Yeah.
I've watched a couple Dodgers games the past couple nights because they've been on late, and Bellinger's hitting 2 home runs a game. I mean, he's looking very good again, and the Dodgers are playing great defense as well. Trey Turner's awesome. Freddie Freeman's got great batting average. Sure, his slugging numbers have gone down, but he's
It's
been a
been a
good pickup for him.
it's been a beneficial thing for them though, with all the power that everybody else has been
Right.
providing.
Yeah, Mookie's doing great. Chris Taylor's doing good. I mean, Justin Turner's like 38 years old, 37 years old, but he's still doing good. I could definitely see the Dodgers winning it, and I could also see the Astros doing it because they're a super team as well. If you look at them,
Who would you say has the higher odds as of right now?
I would probably go with the Dodgers because I feel like the Dodgers have more pitching depth. Their bullpen is better in my opinion because as a Rangers fan, we do face the Astros a fair amount of times, and I feel like when we score most of our runs, it's against their bullpen, not their starting.
And of course, you guys, being that you play him 19 times a year, you know a lot about this Astros team. I know about him to the fact where the Braves saw him in the World Series last year. This is a team that the AL has run through the last couple of years. They've been to 7 straight ALCSs, 3 or 4 of the last World Series in that same time period. And this team is not going anywhere. A lot of people look back at them and still think that they're cheaters, which, granted, cheating did happen and you can't take that away. This Astros team is almost a completely different ball club. You got maybe
Right.
3 or 4 pieces that are still on this team from 2017. You got Altuve, you got Bregman. You can think of what you want about him. If you look around the rest of this team, they weren't there. Christian Vasquez, Maldonado, I don't believe was on the Astros at that point in time. I think he was hurt most of that year. If not, he's a career 200, 210 hitter. I don't really think you can really think that he used the sign stealing to too much of his advantage. Yuli Gurriel was not there. Carlos Correa is no longer there. It's now the rookie Jeremy Pena. Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez are now roaming the outfield. Back then, it was mostly George Springer's boxes out there. So a lot of this team has completely changed over the last couple of years, and you can't really blame it on the pitchers because none of them are out there in the American League swinging the bat. So, and a lot of that pitching staff has changed. No more Garrett Cole, no more Zach Greinke. You still got Verlander at the age of 39, but you got guys like Framber Valdez, Luis Garcia, and a bullpen that's absolutely
Javier.
loaded. Yeah, Christian Javier, um, and a bullpen that's absolutely loaded of guys that really were not there at that same point in time. No more Ken Giles, no more Asuna. So this Astros team, if they do win it this time around under Dusty Baker, who's been waiting for a World Series ring for 60 years of his life now, I think that this would be a good time to do it. And same for the Dodgers, frankly. A lot of people discredit both those rings, and it looks like that there's a very good chance that one of those teams might be holding a trophy for real come this early November. So, RJ, I don't know if you still have your AL series or AL standings pulled up, do you?
I can flip over to it right now. Yeah.
Because if so, I was wondering if you wanted to give us an AL standings recap similar to what I was doing with the National League for the folks at home.
All right, let's talk about some sleeper teams here that could, potentially go for a World Series run themselves.
Well, what's going on with the? Let's give everybody an update with the standings first before we
Oh,
dive
the
into that.
standings. All right, I
Yeah,
got you. All right, with the AL East. All right, of course, the Yankees. It's 71 and 42. One of the better teams in baseball have been all season long.
2-8 in the last 10 though. Point to
That
mention.
is true. They are 2-8 in their last 10. The only team with a winning record in their last 10 games over or in the AL East would be the Orioles. So that's something to note right there. But then in second place, you have the Blue Jays. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games. They've
10
been
back.
playing okay. They've been playing okay baseball. They've been playing, win one, lose one the past couple of weeks. But at the end of the day, that is a very young team, and they could get hot at any moment in time. And then in third place, many people wouldn't think that this team could be in third place at this time, but you have the Orioles. They're playing right now. I have it on over here. They're losing right now, but they're playing great baseball. They're at 59 and 53, 8-2 in the last 10 games, and they look unstoppable right now. They're not making errors. They're hitting the ball in the gap. 1 through 9 has a pretty decent batting average. 230 and higher. So they're looking really good. They could get into wild card spot um, very easily. Then you have the Rays. The Rays have been kind of disappointing this year. In 2020 they did make it to the World Series, and that was a I guess a Mickey Mouse year, as some people would call it. And ever since then they haven't been that World Series kind of team.
Well, last year they won over 100 games again, if I'm not mistaken, but ran out of pitching, which is
Right.
what they do so well at come the playoffs versus Boston.
Right, and it's just you have to have that. You have to have a lot of pitching. You have to have bullpen depth if you want to be a World Series competitor. Like these Yankees and Astros and Dodgers. Then in last place you have the Red Sox, who were super good. Not I don't say super good, but like they were doing really good.
Month of June,
Like
yeah.
a month ago, 2 months ago, and then I'm sure everyone has saw it over social media. The inside the park or all the errors that were happening, all the balls getting dropped in the infield, and their losing streak. Their losing streak was horrible, and now they're in last place in the AL East, which arguably is the hardest division right now. You have four teams in
Absolutely.
there that are playoff contenders at this point in time, but they're 4-6 in their last 10 right now. Let's move on to the AL Central here. The Guardians are in first right now. This has been a tight race all season long with Guardians, Twins, and White Sox. Guardians are 7-3 in the last 10 games. They're 60 and 52. They're probably the youngest team in baseball right now.
Yeah, I would say so.
And they look great. Andres Jimenez was a great trade for him. Obviously, losing Lindor is tough, but Andres Jimenez is going to play so good there in Cleveland. And Josh Naylor's looking good. Obviously, it just DFA'd Franmil, but he wasn't
Yeah.
hitting that good. And the game after they DFA'd him, he went off for the Cubs. So
Really?
that's something.
That's pretty funny.
In second, you have the Twins. They're at 58 and 53. Game and a half back. So this is how close the division is. They're a game and a half back. They've been 5-5 in the last 10 games. They've been about a 500 team all season. They're 5 games above 500 right now.
The
The
Twins also
injuries
had a
are
really
cleaned
good
up.
deadline too, so it's
Yeah,
interesting to see that they haven't
they did.
separated themselves.
That is true. But they have been a little injury riddled for this majority of the beginning of the season. With Correa getting hurt, Buxton was getting hurt. It was getting real scary for them, but they've really picked it up over here for the past couple months. And then the White Sox, 3.5 games back, 5-5 in their last 10. They have been pretty good. They're 57-56, a game above 500 right now, and they're definitely a wild card contender at this point as well.
Yeah, of course, Hayden and I called the White Sox Royals game
Right.
Wednesday night, and there's a lot of things I want to go over when we get through this recap that has to deal with the White Sox because there's a lot of ranting I could use with them.
Yeah, and then you have the Royals. They're at 47 and 67. Not much to say about this team other than they've just been, eh. Oh my god.
You're all good.
Sorry about that.
It's all good.
The Royals, yeah, they're 20 games under 500 right now. They're not looking real good. Bobby Witt's obviously promising. Melendez is looking promising. But, yeah, nothing real to talk about with them. And the Tigers, everyone thought Tigers would be second place in this division this year, and they've been horrible. 43 and 71,
Yeah.
2-8 in their last 10. They have been everything but what we expected.
We thought that this would be the year that they returned to contending status, 500. Everybody looked at the Rangers and the Tigers as those 500 clubs that would come back from emergence this year, and you guys have more than not have done that for the most part, but the Tigers, everything's just gone wrong. Miguel Cabrera has been debatably their best hitter all year, and he's 39 years old. That's a great recap of the Tiger season right there.
100%. And if you go to the AL West now, it's obviously ran by the Astros, and the Mariners have started picking up recently. But yeah, the Astros usually run this division, especially over the past 5 years, and they're just doing that again this year. Obviously, the Mariners are close with them, and then you have the Rangers at third. We're pretty far, but like about 14 games that are 500. And the Angels are 15 under 500. So, I mean, us and the Angels have been pretty similar all year. Our series have always been good, but we're 23 games back. You know, we're done at this point. It's this point, just get the young guys up, call them up, let them do their thing, and just, hopefully we find a gym or two. And then the Athletics, I mean, they've been terrible this year, 2-8 in the last 10, but I feel like every 10 games they play, it's just 2-8 because, I mean, they can't buy wins sometimes. Their pitching's not very good. And the only guy that can consistently get hits for them is Ramon Laureano.
Who also is a PED user.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Mariners looking like a pretty good team that can get to the playoffs. And all three of the teams in Central that I talked about with the Guardians, Twins, and White Sox, they look like they can get in. And then, the Astros, obviously. And then Yankees, Blue Jays, Orioles, and the Rays. It's going to be a really good wild card race come September.
I mean, yeah, let's look at the wild card race real quick before we drop in the rest of the league itself. Of course, right now you got the division leaders, the 1 seed at 73 wins. You got the Houston Astros, the Yankees who have just dropped behind them with a 3-game losing streak at 71 wins, and the 3 seed being that each division winner is going to have a top 3 seed. You got the Guardians who could be flip-flopped any couple days between them, the White Sox and the Twins at the 3 seed. They're 60 and 53, as we've noted. They've won 7 of 10. In the wild card, you got a better record than the Guardians, but again, because they're not winning the division, they are below them at the 4 seed, the top wild card spot. You got the Toronto Blue Jays. So if the postseason started today, this would be the layout for the American League. You'd have the Astros and the Yankees sitting back watching everything with a bag of popcorn, while you would see the Guardians, the 3 seed, hosting the Blue Jays in a 3-game series in Cleveland, while you'd see I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The Blue Jays would actually host the Mariners in a 3-game series, which I think would be a great series for baseball. That would be an awesome 3 games to watch. And the Orioles would actually travel to Cleveland to see them. So that would be really interesting to note. Is that the American League is just crazy close this year. I feel like the National League debatably has bigger superpowers. Like there's 3-4 really good teams over there, but the American League is made up of a lot of solid ball clubs that can all compete and go out there and beat the crap out of each other 5 days a week. I mean, you got the Rays and the Twins both sitting literally a half game out of the race. The White Sox 2.5. Boston, who's had a peak and valley year, as you've said, 4 back, winners of 2 in a row, being that they walked off the Yankees last night. Maybe that gives them another sense of false hope for another week or so. But yeah, that's the American League has been crazy competitive. So I wanna focus back to the American League East for a second. Kind of go around. You and I have kind of talked about this a little bit off the air because I know we talk ball a lot. For those of you that don't know, RJ and I are actually really good friends, so we talk baseball a lot off the air. Even though this is the first time you guys have seen us together doing a show. I've said since like late May that the Yankees are debatably the worst 70-win team I've ever seen. They haven't won a big series, it seems like, the last couple months. The Astros have slapped them around for 6 of 7 this year. The Mets beat them in a 2-game sweep. They lost back-to-back series to the Mariners. The Red Sox have walked them off a couple times the last couple weeks. While the Red Sox are a last place team, that's a big rivalry there, and you kind of got to go in and win those games and handle business. So
We'll be doing that game tomorrow.
Oh yeah, and also true. Yeah. That is also for sure another plug. We will be doing the Yankees Red Sox Fenway game, kind of like we did a couple weeks ago, with Nate Show and Mitch, the Sunday Night Baseball telecast right here on Hardcore. So you guys be here at 8:00 Eastern, 7:00 Central Time for some live play-by-play. I just find it really interesting that the Yankees cannot win these big series. Another one that I missed is they got swept by the Cardinals as well. Jordan Montgomery, who had been traded from the Yankees to the Cardinals a week before, went out and shoved versus his old club. And that had to have been very awkward for a lot of the Cardinals and Yankees fans alike to watch. But what's going on with the Yankees right now, RJ? They're coasting. They've won 2 of their last 10, losers of 3 in a row. Yeah, they're still sitting 10 games above the Blue Jays, 9.5 to be exact, at this point in time. But, I mean, hey, they're going through their rough schedule, and they're showing that maybe they're not so great against these good teams as we once thought.
Yeah, like me talked about earlier, I mean, in these series that mean something, like, the Cardinals series, the Mariners series, they're not doing. I mean, if you watch that Mariners game where Castillo pitched and went about 13 innings, that base running they had was terrible. It looked like Little League.
They're like MLB The Show.
Yeah, it was Little League. I just don't think if they can't compete with these better teams, not even teams that are like destroying our division like the Astros. The Astros have ran them this year, but they play the Mariners and they lose the series because base running. I mean, if you can't run bases, and you're in the majors, that's bad.
I mean,
But
they
yeah,
went the extra innings went 13, right? So there was 3 innings of play.
but
Judge didn't even get a single at bat because there was 2 innings
no,
where they
he
had.
did. He got intentionally walked.
Okay, well, he didn't get a chance to hit the ball in extra innings because
Right.
of the 2 extra base, the base running errors, which can't happen.
Yeah, it's true. And then if you look at the Cardinal series, I mean, they just traded Jordan Montgomery. He comes out and pitches against them, and he shoves. And it feels like a little bit of like a redemption series, a little redemption game or whatever
Yeah,
from Jordan Montgomery. But I mean, that's not a very good pitcher. I mean, he's never been
he's always been average.
amazing. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be a team that wants to make a run for the World Series, you've got to be able to hit the average pitchers, the guys that aren't going to blow you away, but they're not going to be terrible.
And if you look at the Yankees lineup, they should be. I'm actually gonna turn my mirror back the other way. The Yankees lineup should be able to hit anybody. I mean, one healthy, of course. I know they've had some injuries, but you look up and down that lineup. Rizzo's had a great year. Judge, debatably, is the MVP as of right now. Him and Shohei, it's their race to lose. IKF, well, I know a lot of Yankees fans have hated him. He's the best shortstop you've had probably the last decade. Since Jeter's been gone, who's been a guy that's been out there and played as solid as he has? Sure, you've had people that have plugged that spot, but the dude is
Like
hitting
Didi,
280. Yeah, but like Didi was always hurt, and they ran him out of town. So like, you look at it, IKF, while he has no homers and only like 5 or 6 RBIs, the dude gets on base. He's playing good defense, which is you guys complained so much about last year with Glaber and Didi in years past. And they're still trying to run this guy out of town. I'm sorry that he's not hitting 30 home runs, hitting 260, and is just pimping the ball left and right. That's not what every ball club is made out of. 26 guys don't do that. You got to have a complete team, and that's what the Yankees have lacked for the last decade to be able to get through to where they usually are, winning the World Series or even in the World Series. They haven't been in one since 2009, which it's been over a decade where the Yankees have just learned how to play like the rest of the major leagues, where they got to wait their turn. Josh Donaldson has had a bad second half. Who would have thought in the month of June, as it looks like RJ's having some technical issues, so he'll be right back. Who would have thought in the month of June that the Yankees fans would be begging for Clay Holmes to get out of the spot, the closing job, to give it back to Aroldis Chapman? I don't think anybody would have called that. And here we are. Aroldis Chapman is literally in the process of taking back over that closing role, which is shocking to say the least. I would have never expected that a couple months ago. I would have never expected a couple months ago for them to even have a division lead that's under 10 games, which, yeah, that's still, it's going to take you probably 2 weeks or so to catch up, and there's only so many weeks. But the Yankees are finicking right now. And not to say I didn't call it, but I knew this team was playing way above their expectations. This team was not a 72-win team whatsoever. I don't know if it's a couple of the veterans are just aging, and as the dog days go on, they're just hitting the rough parts of the year. And maybe, I mean, who knows? If you're a Yankees fan, I'm sure you'd rather get the rough parts out now and turn it back on, last week or two of September, and be ready to go, because you're still going to be the 1 or 2 seed in the American League. You're still going to have that first round bye. You could really even position yourself in the best case scenario to where you can avoid teams you want to face and see a team that you do want to face, because the Astros are also going to be sitting there watching the games with you. As I mentioned, the Yankees have lost 6 or 7 of the Astros this year, including a no-hit, including a doubleheader sweep on the first day of the second half. So it has been a lackadaisical month and change for the Yankees, to say the least, and the Bronx Bombers. Another point I want to mention is RJ was talking about earlier with the Baltimore Orioles, is that they're doing this without John Means, without, they traded Trey Mancini, the heart and soul of that team, literally. Pablo Lopez, or not Pablo Lopez, excuse me, Jorge Lopez, the closer who they traded to the Twins at the deadline, was dealing. He's had one of the most revivals of his career, one of the best years he's had there in Baltimore in a long time. All those guys are gone. John Means with Tommy John, he's going to be out for the whole year. They trade Mancini to Houston at the deadline, which is, I didn't think they'd be trading Mancini at this point in time, especially with the qualifying offer still being available for them to at least get draft compensation for him in this playoff race if he decides to walk in free agency, because he'd be a big part of it if the Orioles did make the playoffs this year, which as of right now, if it started today, they would be in. Who would have thought that as well? Because baseball is just a romantic sport. But I think that's just the weirdest thing, is that they're doing it without 3 of the core guys that were some of the only usable players the last couple of years in Baltimore. John Means, Mancini, and of course Cedric Mullins is still around. But I mean, three of their top guys, Lopez, Mancini, and Means are not there, and they're still doing the damn thing. So shout out to Baltimore, man. I that city is excited. I know they got the Ravens coming up, who's going to be one of the better teams in the NFL. So it's going to be a fun fall for Baltimore sports, to say the least. Tampa Bay, not much to say on them. Just that this is, I think, the year where the injury bug finally caught up with them, and teams were able to build a roster good enough to surpass them. They had beaten up on the Yankees and the Orioles the last couple years. It's not been the case this year. The Yankees have been able to win series versus them, and same with the Orioles. I'm not so much on the Red Sox. I know they beat them in the playoffs last year, but I believe those guys have had some battles this year. But I believe that the Rays have won more of those games. Not absolutely sure though. I just know that the Rays have kind of hit a weird spot this year. I thought this would maybe be. I think teams figured out. Yeah, I would agree, to be honest. I think that their pitching really isn't where it usually is this year. They do a great job finding guys, and I mean Corey Kluber's had a great year. Shane McClanahan, Glass now probably won't be back till next year. Still one of the better young pitchers in baseball in his prime of his career. Guys like Yarbrough have kind of been roughed up. So the Rays, I feel like this is the year where they finally decided. I thought they would maybe just ship a couple pieces, take some of the youngest guys with control, and really just plant seeds for their future, because this team is never going to be bad, but they're never going to be elite enough. So I don't know if they'll be able to ever win the World Series, but they're always going to be a fun team to watch in contention. Even in the tough AL East, I just think that this is the year that their pitching finally, got injured to the point where they couldn't work out of certain situations, and debatably, just the AL East offenses are just better than what they have to offer. I think it's interesting as well to, this is the year everybody's like, okay, we're not sleeping on the Rays anymore. 2020, everybody's like, oh, well, it is a 60-game season. I think that the Yankees and, let's say the Blue Jays are better than the Rays. And a lot of people thought the same thing last year. A lot of people thought that the Yankees would be favored to win the East. The Red Sox could be a better team. Everybody was kind of looking at every team but Baltimore could have a better team than Tampa Bay last year, and that wasn't the case. Tampa Bay went out and won the AL East pretty easily last year, winning 98, 99 games, beating Boston by 6 or 7 games in the process. While I know Boston did eventually get them, I do not see my phone, RJ, because my notifications are silent. But I'll check again in a second. Let me do that real quick. My camera is going to be frozen, but I'm still here. I'm just trying to double check what RJ is texting me about. He says, "Can you hear me? I got kicked from the stream shard." Huh. Okay. Well, I'll fix that. All right. So, sorry about that, y'all. We're good. But yeah, I think that the Rays really, this is the year that people would said they'd stop sleeping on them, and the year that people finally said that they've gone finicky. So let me make sure I can get RJ back in here. It doesn't say that he's in the back waiting room. So RJ, if you want to just close that tab and open up that link again, because I'm not saying I can't let you in right now. There's nobody here. So I don't want to give out the I don't want to give up the StreamYard to the chat, but I can't let you in because it doesn't give me the ability to do so. You're not in the back room. So you have the link. All you have to do is click on it and enter StreamYard, and you should be able to join there, but I can't right now. I thought you left for dinner, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah, you're good. So RJ should be able to come back here in a minute or two. In the process, I'll move on to the AL Central unless RJ has anything to add about the AL East when we come back. But as of right now, I can't add him back to the StreamYard just yet. So while we wait, we'll kind of talk about the AL Central. A couple nights ago, I was ranting about the AL White Sox on our live stream, which again, tomorrow night, RJ and I will be back here on Hardcore Sports Network, 8 o'clock for the ESPN telecast of the Red Sox Yankees game at Fenway Park tomorrow night. So you guys make sure to be here. Same time, same place, same outlets, all that good stuff. And Wednesday night, Hayden and I were talking about the White Sox against the Royals, who debatably have just been the most disappointing team in the league this year. They battled injuries, and while they've gotten healthy, they just can't win at home. They can't win at home. Tony La Russa has had such poor management. They can't win in the extra innings. And a lot of this is a star-studded roster, and it seems like every single person is mightily underperformed. Lance Lynn's out there with a 7 ERA. Giolito's got an ERA close to 5. Dylan Cease has been great. Johnny Cueto, surprisingly, has been great. The Keuchel route didn't work. You look at their bullpen, guys like Cody Hewer and others have been moved over the last couple of years to bring in other pieces. The Craig Kimbrell trade did not work out. AJ Pollock's been banged up a lot of this year. Tim Anderson's hurt. Yohan Moncada's had a terrible season. Yasmani Grandal has not been Yasmani Grandal-like. Luis Robert missed a lot of time. So this White Sox team just hasn't been it. And it's sad to say because I know a lot of, I'll try to do what I can, RJ, but I can't. If you're not here, I can't let you back in. Try restarting your computer. The White Sox have been the most disappointing team, and I think a lot of it goes back to Tony La Russa, the guy who first started analytics. Him and Buck Showalter were big analytic guys in the early 1980s, late 1980s, early 1990s. And the unfortunate thing is the White Sox owner is not going to fire Tony La Russa because 25 years ago he made a mistake firing a young Tony La Russa who went on to win multiple World Series with the Cardinals near after that. And I don't think the general manager or the ownership of the White Sox is going to make that same mistake twice. They feel like he has one of the safest managerial spots in the league, which is very sad to say the least. Because I feel like he's held this team back quite a lot. This team is young, this team is fun, and they are mismanaging them completely. It seems like everything has gone wrong for them this year. What's up, Max? I don't know what the numbers is. I hope you're not giving out your phone number, but thanks for stopping by, man. For any platform that you guys are on. But yeah, I just think the White Sox have just been the most disappointing team this year. That's to say the least. I already kind of ranted a lot about them the other night, so I don't want to repeat a lot of my thoughts again. I pretty much wrapped them up already there. Twins and Guardians. The Twins are another team that it seems like every year people think that they're going to be one of the better teams in the league. They turn out to be pretty finicky, and they don't do a lot. This year, a lot of people were sleeping on them. Everybody thought it was the White Sox division will lose. The Tigers would be much improved, which we'll talk about them in just a second. And the Twins came out and really just balled. They have been first or second most of the year. I know them and Cleveland have kind of gone back and forth. They're still only separated by one game, so it could be tied up as of tonight with a Cleveland loss and a Minnesota win. This team is another very good baseball team. I know they have not won a playoff game in about 20 years. They've been there and they get swept every time they've been there. It's a thing that they can't get off their neck. Of course, with the Yankees that you play a lot in the American League, it's hard to muster up series wins, if not a single win in the postseason. So you look at that team, it's not a bad roster. You got Carlos Correa. Byron Buxton's been healthy. Jorge Polanco's been great. They still got Miguel Sano, I do believe. Gio Urshela has been great. Gary Sanchez. So the two guys that got in the Josh Donaldson trade have proved out to be pretty good. The outfield with Kirilloff, Max Kepler's rebounded. They added Tyler Mahle at the deadline with Sonny Gray. I think they were looking at Frankie Montas, but I remember he went to New York. That would have been a nice another pickup for them, them losing Barrios last year. So the bullpen has been pretty good. I don't know if I trust it in an October role, but I don't watch a lot of Twins ball. I do have MLB TV, same with RJ, but good grief, dude. This has been a terrible show. I'm sorry for all the distractions, y'all. But oh my god, I keep losing my train of thought. I'm sorry. Thank you guys for sticking with me. I'm trying to do this show solo all of a sudden. Because RJ had a huge technical issue. Let's talk about the Tigers. I know they're 43-71, but I feel like there's enough to be talked about there. And if you guys stick with me, I can promise you I can entertain you with some Detroit Tigers talk. Everything has gone wrong for them as well, to say the least. A lot, going off of last year, they were in a very weak AL Central, right? You had the White Sox who went 500 in the second half and had already pretty much clinched it. The Twins were injury-riddled, had a very disappointing year. Nobody really expected much from Cleveland or Kansas City last year either. But Detroit had a lot of positives. They had a lot of money coming into last offseason, which they spent a lot of that money on some good pickups, and a lot of the young guys got better. Now the unfortunate thing is those young guys haven't taken that next step, and Major League pitching has kind of been gruel to them. Guys like Spencer Torkelson, as I mentioned earlier, Miguel Cabrera has debatably been their best hitter, and that cannot happen. Again, Detroit is another park where hitters go to die. It's debatably the worst hitting park in the leagues. I wouldn't even say it's a pitching park. It's just a terrible offensive park. Also playing in the cold in Detroit, Michigan for 4 months of the season. It's not the easiest thing to do for 81 games. And the lineup shows, guys who had breakouts last year like Akil Baddoo have been terrible this year. They go sign E, you know, Erod from the Red Sox this offseason, and he just disappears. The dude went missing. He left the country, had some marital issues, and you never know what's going on with that. I wish him and his family and everybody that knows him the best. But nothing has gone right for the Tigers this year. And I think a lot of us maybe looked at it in the mirror uh, differently than we should have. Maybe this team wasn't as good as we thought, but this team should definitely have more than 43 wins in the month of August. This team is better than what they should be playing. And I think there's another scary thing to look at is they do have the old Astros manager AJ Hinch, and this doesn't make him look very good. They get the Tigers were willing to give him a second chance after the sign stealing scandal. I don't know if the old GM found a job elsewhere. I'm not absolutely sure about that, but I do know that AJ Hinch found himself a gig again with Detroit, and it has not been a pretty case for him. They went out and got Javier Baez. He's stunk. Awful. Terrible. Not the guy that he once was, and I don't know if he'll ever be once again because he's kind of been lackadaisical the last couple of years and between Chicago and Detroit now. It's definitely unfortunate. Detroit has had a lot of sports town pain the last decade or so with the Lions. Always being one of the worst NFL franchises. Detroit with the Pistons. Now, granted, they have a lot of the youth that they've one of the most promising youthful rosters they've had in a long time. They're still a couple years away from doing anything, and they haven't done anything the last couple years without those guys. You got the Red Wings, which I don't know a lot about hockey, but I do know that the Red Wings have historically been one of the worst franchises the last 30, 40 years. And then you got the Tigers. So I feel for Michigan sports. I know that the Wolverines and the Spartans also aren't as good uh, athletically as they used to be. Winning titles and stuff here and there for a multitude of sports. So I feel bad for the state of Michigan for their sports teams. I hope that things do improve here in the future. Hey, what's going on, Nate? What's going on, man? Good to hear from you. We'll be Nate. We're actually going to be doing the Yankees Red Sox game tomorrow night here on Hardcore and on my networks as well. So if you want to stick around or maybe come join us for the later innings, just let me know, man. So, but just a little bit more here to talk about before we wrap things up here on episode 2 of the Long Ball podcast. It doesn't look like RJ is going to be able to return, but I do know that Hayden will be back for next week, and of course tomorrow night, as I've stated, we have the ESPN broadcast. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I kind of want to hint on. I mean, RJ kind of to wrap the AL West talk in a bow. Trade deadline's passed. The dog days are happening. The Field of Dreams game happened the other night. It was a sleeper to say the least. I think a lot of us knew coming into it that it'd be the Reds and the Cubs. From May on, we knew that neither of these teams would be very good at all, and that game kind of played at it. It was a nice little rivalry to say the least to have them on the national spotlight. I hope it's better teams next year, but I mean there was no home runs hit in the cornfield, and that was unfortunate to not be able to see. It was very cool that they had the Harry Carey hologram. Of course, legendary Chicago Cubs announcer. His son and grandson have both been successful broadcasters for the Atlanta Braves as well. So a very successful broadcasting family, the Careys. They had a hologram of him sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," which is very chilling and very cool to say the least. They had Vince Scully, which bless his heart, rest in peace to that soul, do the voiceover intro from a movie he did back in the day for the Field of Dreams script. So that was a very cool storyline to say the least. I mean, it's the Field of Dreams. It was a fun game last year. It was a much better game last year, but I still watched. Okay, I'll make sure to do that, Nate. It was a very lackadaisical game, but it was still fun to watch at the same time because I'll watch any baseball, especially if it's a neutral site game. I know they're getting underway for Game 2 of the series tonight in Cincinnati between the Cubs and the Reds, who are only separated by 2 games in the National League Central, 3rd place and 5th place, 16 and 18 games back of the Cardinals for 1st place, respectively. But I mean, the Cubs jumped on them 3 runs in the 1st inning, and they added a 4th, I believe, in the 5th inning or so. Drew Smyly pitched really well. The Reds got 2 back in the 7th inning, and that was it. 2 scoreless innings for each team, the 8th and the 9th, and that was it. So the Cubs and the White Sox, Chicago, respectively, has taken the first 2 games of the Field of Dreams game, and it'll be interesting to see what comes in the near future for that game, because I think it'll still be really interesting to watch for the next couple years. But yeah, I believe that's a lot of what we had to talk about and all the time we had for here in episode 2 of the Long Ball Podcast. Once again, I'm Blake Newsom. Thank you guys for tuning in, for RJ Martz, and of course for everybody here at Hardcore Sports Network, and along with Hayden, who should be back next week. We'll see you guys tomorrow night for the 8 o'clock ESPN game between the Yankees and the Red Sox. So once again, I'm Blake Newsom. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, here's my @ right here at Newsom Sports ATL. Make sure to give me a follow. I'll follow you back, and I'll be happy to talk sports with any of you guys. And so, yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys again for another great show, and we'll see you next time. So let's play ball, all right? See you guys soon.